to look at Ethan running at 12.5 kilometers an hour at 2.5% incline. Before on the left, after on the right. We will slow it down and we'll start to break things down as well in terms of the three areas that we were looking at. And firstly, we'll come up to that right leg before. So before, when Ethan was running, he was landing. I'm going to look at Footstrike and where it is positioned. We'll start with Footstrike. He was landing with the real hindmost part of the heel, as we can see there, which led to that high toe inclination. The issue with that high toe inclination is that the anterior tibialis, the shin muscles down here, have to work really hard to control the foot coming down, which leads to a slapping and loud, heavy step. Also note, in terms of that can contribute to shin splints because of that impact, because of that control of that foot coming down, and then the impact can affect the knee and the hip. Now, where Ethan was striking with that right foot, he was striking ahead of his centre of gravity, which is an overstride. So in striving to go as fast as we can, we tend to take a bigger step, but that actually means we spend longer time on the ground than we need to, slows us down. When we're running, we're either in flight mode in the air, stance mode, loading one leg, and the injuries happen on the ground and not in the air. And the compensation for that was the forward lean from the back, which in terms of the forward lean from this hip area, is going to switch off the glutes and the hamstrings, the power muscles that we're using to propel us forward. So it would be difficult to pick up and maintain speed, because that break means the body is in contact with the ground, as I mentioned, but we'll have an opportunity to fall out of alignment as we come into that position. Another indicator is the fact that before we were leading with a long lever, so a straight leg, and again that impact force is going to be sent up to the knee, and 70% of impact is going to be from that knee and below. So if we look at where we are after, and I'll just remove these lines here. So as the foot's coming down, it's nice and flat. Now where we're landing in that position is we're landing nice and flatter trajectory of the foot, so that's excellent. So we're almost coming down to mid strike, which is superb. We've got ear, shoulder, hip nicely in line. In terms of where the foot's landing, that's nicely underneath that hip. We've got literally that type of gap there. Now, to have a gap, a small gap is absolutely fine, because that's still underneath Ethan's centre of gravity, and we know that because the running posture has improved immensely. In terms of the shin position, shin is in a great position there, because what we've got is we're aiming for that to be nicely perpendicular, so 90 to the ground, and that is absolutely on point with where we want to be. A really good soft knee. And when Ethan was coming through, he's coming through therefore with a short lever, because that foot's now placed down underneath that hip. So that means that he's going to be able to maintain and pick up speed. Another point on there is, if we just take it back to that right, is now we've got where we can see where I've just played it back, where we were coming in, the chest was twisting round. Now, when Ethan is in that position, the chest, so in the air, down, the chest is nicely forward and facing forward, and that posture is spot on. The eyes looking nicely straight ahead, chin reflecting down to the ground. So that's a really, really good improvement on that right side in terms of eliminating that overstride, and where we were before was here, to now landing underneath that centre of gravity. If we have a look at the left, where we were before, now the left foot, that's when we're coming into contact, we're still using the hindmost part of the foot, but what we had on that left side was a lower toe position, and we still had from that hip dot there, we had a straight lever coming through because we were once again on that left side overstriding. So the overstride is that gap between the knee. So if we just have a look from that position. So that's where we had our overstride on that left side. It was slightly less than the right side, but we still had that upper body compensating by that lean forwards from that point. So that flexing from the trunk, and that is to help with balance because the body's having to stabilise itself from stop it from falling forward. Now, if we play it through on the left here as we come down. There, so that in that position we've got flatter foot strike. So again, we're coming down midfoot. So we've taken out that heel strike, which is going to affect the knee position. What we do where we are placing our foot. So we've got a good running posture there. In terms of the overstride, we've got the foot position is good. It's a slight gap between the knee. As we mentioned at the start, we're aiming for next to no gap, but a small gap is going to be fine, and that is a lot closer where we wanted it to be underneath that hip than where we were before. And we can see that we've taken out over 2/3, if not more, of that overstride. So that is absolutely brilliant position. In terms of the head is nicely up. Again, that chest is facing nicely forward as well. So really good improvement over those 6 sessions in terms of that landing position, reducing that overstride. And in terms of the shin position, knee, we've got that knee nicely over that top of the laces. When we're coming into that foot strike. An area to look to encourage to develop on that left side is just to try and allow that knee to come a little bit higher. So we almost want to just start to get it a little bit further back by a fraction. We're talking fractions here about that position. So just bringing that knee back up a little bit. But awesome improvement from that area. Of the foot placement under the hip and foot strike. To change foot strike does take a long period of time, but Ethan's done a superb job there and coming down with a low heel, as we can see. So that's going to release any pressure that might be felt on the calf. The next thing we were looking at with Ethan, and we'll just play it through, was heel lift in terms of leg cycle. Now, in terms of heel cycle, and this is the one area that helps to fix that overstride, is making sure we're activating the glutes and the hamstrings by allowing that heel to come up to the bum, to the glutes, to draw that circle, which will increase the flight time. So if we look at where we were before, and we look at this from mid stance position, as that right foot was coming in before, Ethan was just below that knee crease, and the knee crease is where we start to get to the activation. If we're looking at running for a longer period of time, then we're always looking to be just above that knee crease. If we're looking at 5Ks, 10Ks, for sprinting, we're always going to be coming up, or faster pace running, we're always going to be aiming up to those glutes. So that's what we had on the left as that right foot came in. If we look at it on the as that left foot comes in to strike, we need to move this a fraction. We were up close to that knee crease position. But we were just a fraction lower. So we were getting close to it, but we just literally just a little bit lower. So that's where that position of that heel was. If we look at it in terms of a whole picture, what it meant was that as soon as Ethan's foot was leaving the ground before, it was soon back in contact with the ground, which means that we've got a higher level of impact. So if we do it in terms of this oval, which we might need to play about with, we can see that the foot will never get higher than that oval, just that right area, just to the top of that. So we were drawing that ball. So as soon as our foot left, toeing off a long way from the body, so that's toe off, so a long way from the body. As soon as it came, it was back down again. So let's look at where we are afterwards. So we'll refer back to the right side. Okay, so where we get into that mid stance position there, or mid swing, we're nicely up to the glute position. So we're up to just at the bottom of the glutes. Heels nicely drawing that circle, toes facing nicely down. So that is excellent on that. That'd be the left foot. If we look at the right, and we've got that right foot again nicely high up to that glute position. So again, what we're finding there is we're pretty much equal, and we've managed to level that out. So that's a really good improvement in terms of leg cycle. And how that looks in terms of a picture is that Ethan will have more flight time. So in terms of the actual drawing, if we put it in, we'll play it around, we can see now that Ethan is drawing around that outer circle with the heel. It's a really nice repetitive action as it comes around that circle. So it's a really good leg cycle, and now we're toeing off closer to the body as well. So really good improvement. And in terms of Ethan's flight time, we can see that flight time when those feet are in the air, whereas before we were literally just leaving and touching, leaving and touching. Now we've got that momentarily pause. We're in flight. So it's a really good leg cycle. And in terms of that position, means the legs is coming through with a shorter lever. There's an improvement in the fluency of the hip to flex to come backwards. And now the movement is being driven by the glutes and the hamstrings. The final thing to look at with Ethan was the arms. That was our third objective. So if we just take a look at that now, in terms of the arms, what we were looking for before the arms stayed very much low to the body. So in terms of how they're moving in slow motion, if we look at the action before, it was just swinging across, not coming any higher than the abs. We see that the England badge, the arms are just staying low and coming across that body. If we look at it after, and we were twisting, if we look at it after now, okay, and we just get to an adequate position. There, we've got the elbows driving back. So we've got nice light fist up to shoulder, elbow coming back. So we've got that nice window between the ribs and the arms. Chest is facing forwards, head is nice and steady. And if we play that through again. So there, we've got the elbow driving back. So we've now got that movement coming from that shoulder shoulder joint, and that hand is nicely relaxed by that side. So in terms of the improvement of the hand position, very impressed with that. The arm drive and the arms give the legs rhythm, balance and control and speed. And in terms of those three objectives, Ethan has totally eliminated the overstride on the right side. He's got a very, very good foot placement on both, and reduced heavily the overstride on the left. It's literally just millimeters, bringing that foot slightly towards that hip a little bit more on that left side, but he's still able to maintain speed and momentum. There's a good rhythm to it as I watch it. Shoulders posture has improved immensely, with the arms now coming straight back from pocket to shoulder, staying on the same side of the body, and the running posture is significantly improved. There's a springiness to how Ethan is running. That concludes the analysis from the side of the 12.5 kilometres at 2.5%. Any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch.